G'day punters, welcome to the Mailbag Sydney Review Show. The weekend produced a couple of massive figures, in particular in the Concorde Stakes, but I'll introduce the crew first of all. Mark Shean, firstly, good to have you on board once more. How'd you fare on Saturday?
Yeah, just a small loss, Pete. Stuffed a couple of races up. Weight for age race was good for me, but a couple of other races, a couple of seconds there, unfortunately. Hungry Heart and was on coaling for a bit of a result there. I was curling the mow at the 800, but didn't quite get past the winner.
Mark Rhoden, speaking of horses that got past in the end, Gytrash drifted out to a huge figure towards the end and got the job done for you. Just run us through that just briefly.
It wasn't, I was going to treat this meeting very cautiously. That was my plan of attack. I didn't really like it coming into it. And the Concorde was just a dead set no bet race, I thought, in the morning. The prices looked pretty right. And then I've literally gone and made a cup of tea and come back 4 or 5 minutes before the race, and it's out to, the odds are starting with a 5. And I thought, no, we have to have a bet here, because that was just, I saw there was money for things like Dirty Work, and obviously the favourite was very solid, but I just don't see how that happened with Gytrash at that price. Especially with how the map was going to set up for him.
We'll touch on that race in just a moment, but I'll introduce Rob Scurry as well. Rob, it's now 6 meetings in a row for yourself that have produced winning numbers. You're flying.
Just trying to, take the inputs, respect them, look at maps and try and get the yard to match up. So doing those things, been working out. Could have handled Saturday better, but thanks to you, Pete, I had a fat day. And Curly, shouldn't forget Curly with his stinger in the at Toowoomba. Yeah, exactly. Justice.
Yes, exactly right. That horrific turnout in race 1 in Brisbane for him, that was sickening.
We'll leave that to digest a little bit later on. That was a bizarre race, needless to say. But we're going to review just the key races from Saturday. We'll do the Concorde, Furious, Chelmsford and Tramway. We'll start with the Concorde. They've gone very fast here to the 600 for the class. They've gone just even. But overall, Gytrash produced a monster figure, 16 lengths fast to the overall. And in terms of its overall personal best, it's actually almost 3 lengths superior to its previous best in the Creswick, which was at Flemington over 1200. Mark Rhoden, your Nature Strip formula seems to still be working.
Still ticking over, yes. The theory behind it is that about 1 time in 3, he pulls out a run that's going to be impossible to beat. And so if you're getting $3, back him. That's very, very back of the envelope. Not much science to that. It's just a rough thing I've worked out, especially since Waller's got him. So I won't be dropping off him. There's a lot of chat after the race that perhaps the Everest is going to be stacked with fast horses and leaders, and that won't suit him either. But I certainly wouldn't be dropping off him, because when he's on his game, he is almost literally unbeatable. But Saturday did just set up beautifully for Gytrash.
Mark Shean, what are you doing if these 2 horses clash next time? Have you got an opinion either way at this early stage?
Well, I'm with Mark. I think it's a lot dependent on the speed. If he can get his own way, he's a completely different horse. But Ball of Muscle, as we did mention on the previous show there on Thursday, that Ball of Muscle had jumped in front of him last time they clashed and then was restrained. So Joe Pride had made it known that he was going to put the handlebars down. So Nature Strip was there to be taken on, and as it's turned out, Gytrash lobbed into the right spot. So it just depends on what turns up to run against him, and in the Everest and other lead-up races.
In the Everest, they're not. I don't think another horse is going to declare Nature Strip on like that. And if he's feeling good in himself and he's on his game, he'll be very hard to beat, I think.
Rob Scurry, I'll bring you in here. How did you think that, first of all, Gytrash and then Nature Strip paraded after their break?
I got it down to 3 horses. Only 3 could win. Ball of Muscle should have gone out on top. Just a magnificent horse. Come back. They don't come back better than this off a break. And he looked fantastic. I was kind of a bit sucked into the Nature Strip, hype. He paraded like a lamb. His coat wasn't there. He had plenty of condition, but he is a freak of an animal. Anyway, and Gytrash, bit woolly in the coat a little bit, plenty of condition, but walked around like a proper weight for age star. And I thought it could only improve off the run.
Just on that, Rob, your mate Lizzie found Dirty Work, who ran a super race as well. What did you make of him?
It's one of the better Hawks parades of recent runners, I got to say, but still certainly plenty of good condition. Race like the Epsom is right up his alley, you'd think.
Well, we did get a question from Ryan Ingram on Dirty Work. Mark Shean, do you have a thought on where Dirty Work's ceiling is potentially?
Well, I think he went back to inferior ground there. I think right on the rail was no good in my opinion, so 1 to 2 off. So when he was charging there late, he did go back into the inferior ground. So I would probably give him another half a length off that run. Look, this horse just keeps improving. He was a midweeker only a couple of months ago, and he's just gone to another level, especially there at Rose Hill before he went for a spell. He looked like Farlap reincarnated. So look, if he gets in a handicap with no weight, he's a pretty smart horse. I'm not sure if he's up to Everest level, but certainly handicap-wise he is.
What about the Epsom? I know you love him, Mark Rhoden.
Million to 1 running a mile.
No, he's a sprinter, I thought. Yeah, I thought even 1100 is probably his best trip.
Yeah, I think 1100's dead set flat out.
I did find it interesting. I went back and had a look at Nature Strip's figures with the Concorde Stakes last year, and on the Punting Form data, he produced a 14.4 figure last year. He's returned with a 14.2 figure this year. So Chris Waller's just super consistency from Chris Waller. He's just a freak of a trainer. We then saw Nature Strip go on to win the Moir, ran 4th in the Everest, and he killed them in the Darley Classic down the straight at Flemington. So I think certainly he can be followed, especially with the SP. But again, whether or not you'll get odds on him next time, that's the question. All right, we'll jump into race 6, which was the Furious Stakes over 1200. Dame Giselle sat very wide without cover and was still too good. They've gone even in terms of the speed for the class. Mark Shean, I'll start with yourself. Hungry Heart, thoughts on that horse and how it had its run in transit, given that Dame Giselle won sitting 3 wide without cover?
Yeah, well, Dame Giselle has had a performance in the past of improving from a first up to a second up. She's won second up every preparation. I just discounted on Saturday because I mapped her where she ended up, and I thought she might struggle in that position. I knew Hungry Heart obviously looking for further, but just probably didn't get out at the right time. Dame Giselle actually held it in the pocket coming around the bend. Had Hungry Heart been 3 wide and working into it, I think perhaps the result might have been different, but you can't take anything away from the winner. She had the run under her belt. She dropped in weight compared to last start, so she was findable, but I just didn't think she could sit 3 wide on my map and beat them. Other horses in the race are pretty bunched behind. Candy went back to the worst going, but she probably didn't run the trip. And Vangelic was okay, but certainly Hungry Heart from a flight stakes viewpoint is the one to follow.
Mark Rhoden, they didn't miss Canty.
No, I backed 2 in the race, Ed and Stella Pauline, who are both well backed. Probably finished with Stella Pauline. I'm sick of her, but I might give Candy one more chance. I think she, just on TV, she looks a lovely type of horse. Be interested in your thoughts on that, guys. But I'd maybe give her one more chance. She was definitely in the inferior ground. Dame Giselle just is what she is. Being 3 wide in itself wasn't a disadvantage, but to do it facing the breeze was a tough effort. She's not one of the best 3-year-old fillies we've ever seen. We've said that before, but she just does what she does, and she'd be a great horse to own in that regard. And Hungry Heart obviously be better over further. They're not a vintage group by any means, but it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward.
Rob, you're shaking your head.
Oh, I lost on the race and I sent out the trifecta, and I'll be back to Dame Giselle that many freaking times, but not to get a result on her. Another horse on the day, which I think could be anything and could haunt me, is the Legend horse that won. Anyway,
Yep.
He could step up to a group race, maybe at the Spring Champions.
Second horse isn't bad in that race either, air to air.
And Soames Petronius, he wasn't there as well. But yeah, Dame Giselle, I backed it before the race. I couldn't send a tip on it, sent it out on top. And when it got to where it got in the map, which is why I didn't send it out, I ended up laying it at $5.
Ouch.
It wasn't quite as bad as the Theory in race 1 when the other favourite missed the start and I unloaded on a Theory. That was a 6 start to the day.
3 wide facing breeze was better than nailed to the fence on Saturday, I reckon.
Yep.
I don't think Keanu's much of a horse, and I like the stride on Hungry Heart. I think she moves well. She doesn't look all that much, but she's got a exceptional stride.
Okay, we'll touch on the Chelmsford next of all, the mile race, the Group 2. Mr. Seawolf probably had his birthday, I would imagine. It's probably fair to say. They've gone fast to the class, 2.5 lengths fast to the 600. Mr. Seawolf has defeated one of your old mates, Rob, Yulong Prince. And Finch, who was supported on the day, stuck on okay. Mark Shean, we spoke about how the fact that this wasn't really a vintage Chelmsford by any stretch. Did you end up playing at all in the race?
Yeah, so I was on the winner luckily, and laid the other two favourites, Avilius and Angel of Truth. So it was beautiful when Angel of Truth got left and Avilius was out the back. So everything fell into place. One race I finally got right. Nothing spectacular. Avilius was outstanding. Got back to last, made up a lot of ground. Shared Ambition, I thought, worked home okay, out very wide, which wasn't the place to be. But yeah, not a vintage race by any stretch of the imagination. I think Finch's run was pretty similar to what in the race last year, worked home okay. And I think Angel of Truth just confirmed that he needs a really wet track.
Mark Rhoden, for yourself?
No, I didn't bet. I wanted, after we spoke on Thursday, I had another look on Friday, and I was actually asked to give an early tip on another website on Friday, and I was actually typing Mr. Seawolf, and while typing, Dynamic lit up, and it was $7.50 into about $5. You know, I've knocked it off telepathically somehow. So anyway, and it never got back out really. So I let it go. It panned out the way we thought it would, with Nash up on the speed, and I don't know how many more preps he's got left in him, but he's obviously a very good second up horse because he did this last spring as well in the Shannon at Rosehill. Improved markedly off his first up run to win. But yeah, they sort of, as groups, the on-pacers sort of stayed as the on-pacers and just shifted around a little bit, and the ones that got back couldn't really make much impression. They, the margin certainly compressed as they got closer to the line, but nothing was really grabbing my eye of those that got back. Does the data tell you anything?
Avilius?
Oh, Avilius.
Come on, what's the Avilius data?
Yeah,
Dying to know.
What are you going to back Avilius in though, really? I mean...
Well,
anyway,
we had a question from Alistair McCook about, and I'll get Rob to jump in on Avilius as part of this. He said, all things being equal, are you inclined to back a decent horse with a good map or a very good horse with an average map? Rob, for yourself?
Oh, I'm trying to learn this week to week. But yeah, I think I sent out on the text Avilius proper weight for age horse classes above these. Track too hard ? So if it was a little bit softer, I would have launched 1x3 on him. The winner, one of my horses for sure. We backed it with Imaging first up. We've had many wins on the roly-poly Mr. Seawolf, who's just the prototype perfect Waller, or even a bit better than that. Yeah. Other than that, I think I said that my fourth number was like a B grade. Avilius. Morton's Fork. Yeah. It was like Avilius, Mr. C. There wasn't really much there in the race at all to look at, and Morton's Fork looked cherry ripe. Coat was gleaming, walked around really, really well. So yeah, well, Mr. Seawolf's won it. He'll be running around in some Hawkesbury, cup somewhere.
Your horse Finch was all right, Pete.
Yeah, it was. I didn't get any price on the day though.
Solid, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was solid in the market, but I guess that was probably more just the on-speed factor. Mark Shen, I'll get a comment on you with regard to Alistair's question. Decent horse with a good map versus a very good horse with an average map?
Well, I think I spoke about it before. Dame Giselle, their bad map and got off it, so I'm probably the last person to ask.
We all struggle with this week to week. Try and back the best horse.
Yeah,
it's tough, but a good map helps. And I got that in the last race with J-Mac and the Bossy on Ice Bath.
Yeah, there's been a couple of those. Just in terms of horses finishing off, Mark Rhoden, I thought the run of Brimham Rocks was probably the best from back in the field. I think that's one of the stayers that looks to have returned with some decent enough figures going home through the line. So that's probably one I'll be following in maybe 3 starts or 2 to 3 starts time.
He was very hard not to put in the numbers. Bring him Rocks. He's always in the numbers usually, but I was just like, no, we'll put him Morton's Fork.
Yeah.
make a comment.
We'll go to the Tramway over 1400. Dreamforce basically just got into a 2-horse war with Graceful Glamour, but in terms of the overall speed data, they weren't going particularly quick up front. They were going 2 lengths slow for the class, but in the end, the horses back in the field weren't really able to make up the sufficient ground. Mark Shean, for yourself, did you have a play in race 8 on the day?
Yeah, I was on Colding. This was a bizarre race to watch because those 3 horses broke away in the early part. And you're thinking to yourself, well, they're going about 46.5, and then you do the figures after, and they've gone about a second slower than that. So the backmarkers actually had no hope in this race. Dreamforce, even though he did a little bit of work to get across, eventually the race was run to suit him. Colding was there to win. I thought Vanagir was outstanding. He's back to last from a wide draw, still last, topping the rise. Made up a stack of ground in a race where you shouldn't have been able to run on.
Rob Scurry, there was a first starter in Australia, Dragon Leap, this Kiwi. What did you think of this horse's parade?
Scopy type, Kiwi, athletic. He's not quite there yet. Give him a little bit longer, but yeah, he looks a promising horse from the yard. Like not Buddy Franklin, but he's got a bit of filling out to do. But yeah, watch him. I'm very interested to follow him. Okay,
and then just run us through some of the others in the field. You had obviously horses like Colette resuming. Your old mate looks like Elvis as well.
Yeah. But Vanagir, I wanted to send her out on top until I saw the map, and maybe I should have sent her out on top. But yeah, she was the one horse that really looked ready to go. And just tragic circumstances, the way the races panned out. Colette, I just thought she was classy. He didn't want to pull her up to the field, so it's half, his own fault. Seemed to get in a good spot, and they just let the leaders get away. It was that was it. Colding surely looked like it had it.
What do you reckon about Reloaded? Do you think he's just a one pace, keeps getting in with the flashing light every run? Is he going to win a race? Or?
He's come back very, very well, but he's a horse that I always took on previously. He's not one of mine. Happy to take him on, but yeah, he seems to be improving.
What do you think, Mark? He's heavily in Epsom discussions.
Yeah, and he was very well backed in this race too. He went up double figure odds, I think, and was quite heavily spruiked and backed here. Yeah, he's a capable horse. He's a capable Group 2, Group 3 horse. Epsom, yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I don't think he has that killer turn of acceleration that you want from a real Group 1 horse.
I'll back Mr. Seawolf in a Doncaster.
I'll back you on Prince in a Doncaster.
Oh, if that had won, I would have just flown up. Lizzie tipped it as well. Good tip, Liz. It was a good tip. Yeah.
Mark Rhoden, when you're going through a race like the Tramway, where you see the 3 leaders get off to a head start, do you give a bonus to the horses dragging up the field in those situations?
Not in terms of my actual numerical rating, but when I'm coming to assess them next time out, yes, they're definitely going to get a push forward for sure. Yeah, it was a very strangely run race, wasn't it? It was classic Nash. Another leader in the race and go and drive it mad from 2 wide, half length it, and then take up the running. Just psychological warfare up front, and to get away with that without running any time as well is just a perfect outcome for him. I was against Dreamforce on Saturday. Got that wrong. He was hard in the market too. He hasn't got, his best figures for me have all been on Mad Leaders tracks, to be honest, and I think he's sort of courtesy of a lovely setup and a brilliant ride, he's got away with one here. I'd certainly be looking at, for horses to follow out of this race, it'd be certainly the ones that were in the back half of the field early. Vanagir's an obvious example. Not sure what else, but very strangely run race.
Okay. We'll basically just summarise with a horse to follow or horses to follow from each of you, just going forward over the next couple of weeks. Mark Shean, I'll start with yourself.
Mounted the third, I thought Sylvester did a very good job. Was ridden a lot differently to his first 2 starts. Drew wide, eased right back. He was at the rear 3 wide on a limb. Came down that middle part, which I don't think was the place to be. And I thought he closed off very nicely. So he might be heading towards a race like the Spring Champion. I think he'll probably excel once he gets up to the mile or 2,000 metres, but I thought he did a pretty good job there in race number 3.
Mark Rhoden, a horse to follow for yourself.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say race 3 in general. I think they've got this is going to be a strong form race. The winner's gone really well. Showed potential last prep, and I think he's going to deliver on it this time in. All-time legend, Air to Air, who just spiralled upwards, ending up running a place behind what's that horse? Waterhouse.
Dawn Passage.
Dawn Passage, yes. Before going for a spell, and it's obviously come back in great order. And then Petronius and Sylvester. I think at least the first 4 can be followed in their right races going forward. I think it'll be a very good form race.
Rob, you did hint at it beforehand, but you did have a big bet on All-Time Legend in its first ever run, and your quote on the day was "looks a group horse." Sorry, I just had to remind you. But
yeah, it's a Warwick Farm on a Monday. Snuck out there and first race just unloaded. It didn't go my way. I think the horse like half bucked or something. Something didn't go right, and yeah, for me, that's the horse to follow. I'm terrified of it now. You know, like I should have absolutely destroyed this horse and made a lot of money out of it, and yet it's cost me. I did save on Air to Air. I copped a tip from Nick Heathcote, and I had him as the saver, so to not back. Anyway, and the other one, Dame Giselle. What do I do with that? That keeps winning. It's in its right races. Like it's won against the pattern and still got improvement. And finally, Avilius, if he gets a softer track, you can win.
It's the Craven Plate would be his race, wouldn't it? It's worth $500,000 or something now on Everest Day. But
yeah,
that'd be winnable.
Just a wait for age race a mile above at Randwick with a dead or worse.
Yeah, that's good. That Craven Plate and the Bondi, those 2 races worth about $1 million, and you get Class 1 field.
That's good. Happy Clapper won it last year, didn't he? Was that the Craven Plate?
Yeah, that was a good result for me.
And Kubrick won the other one, the Bondi.
Champion.
Maybe they could spend that million on Hawkesbury and Breeze Turford.
So what happened at Hawkesbury? How much rain did they put on it, Mark?
They put no rain, 37 mil of irrigation through the week. They gave it out as a soft 5, left it as soft 5, and they were running 2 seconds slower than the heavy 9 there about a month ago. And left it as soft 5 all day.
And outside fence and
absolutely first to the outside rail. It was a disgrace.
Dominic Byrne posted that it was the first time the 1,000-metre maidens hadn't broken 60 seconds in 6 years, and they're calling it a soft 5.
Yeah, in September too. These are the better maidens.
Yeah.
Well, they're running 119 for 1,300, 127 for 1,400. Like it was just
like New Zealand times. Yeah.
It's an insult to your intelligence.
Track manager's fault?
I don't know whose fault it is. It's not ours.
Well, get Richie Irvine on. He can ask a few questions.
He's retired.
I want to hear from him. Want to hear from punters. But it seems to me like this policy, that it is just a policy. Water the tracks, and if you don't, you're in big trouble.
Randwick turned out fine, though. I mean, I was terrified when that rain turned up on Friday that we're going to get a soft 6 or worse or something. It was going to fall apart like it had during the winter. But while the fence was off, it was definitely a good 4, or if not better.
Yeah, there's a bit of a tailwind in the straight for
True,
him.
yeah, there was. Yeah, it did have the well, it's definitely a good 4, though.
Beautiful day for racing it was. But yeah, look, it did bug me that they were putting water on it, because it would have been even better if they just left it alone.
True, but if you're doing it on Tuesday, is probably the time to do it. If you're going to water, you don't want to be getting any closer than that.
I know, but this rain was forecast for possibly for race day, which I'm not sure this track can handle it at Randwick.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe they were lucky, but it turned out fine.
They were lucky. So there's a policy. Anyway,
it's one of the ongoing great mysteries of New South Wales racing is you don't know exactly what the track will do or what condition it will be in until the day. And speaking of which, we've got Canterbury Park on Wednesday. Mark Rhoden, the rest of the week for yourself? Pretty
light week actually. For me, we had a pretty heavy week last week, but then they're off to Hawkesbury on Thursday, and we got the Run to the Rose with Fun and others on Saturday.
Very good. Rob Scurry, you'll be out on course. I'm sure you'll be looking forward to it. Mark Shean, Mark Rhoden, you'll be joining me on Thursday to preview those 3 Group 2 races coming up at Rose Hill. So until then, enjoy the week and go well.